Keep track, Paul. Keep track, Paul. Keep in mind, there's still the public.
Oh, there's the public. Well, they can stream.
Yeah, unfortunately, per the governor's executive order, that is not okay.
Oh, okay. Congratulations, Luann.
Oh, thank you.
Citing committee. Wow, that's an important job.
Yeah, we'll see.
So don't put any nuclear power plants in Mansfield.
No.
Okay.
It's unlikely it will ever impact Mansfield.
I just want to say that Ken and Luann and Paul, I missed you at the J.E. Shepherd site walk.
I didn't miss it. Been there, done that.
All right.
But you had a nice walk in the cold, right?
We had a lovely walk in the cold in the woods, 4:20 to 5:30. All right, Emmy has given us the all clear, so Paul, you can.
Linda, we still have some people trying to get on. Benu is trying to get on. So can we just give them another minute?
Yes.
Linda, I have a question for you.
Okay.
The ad hoc committee on housing, what day does that meet every month?
So I'm going to have Emmy send you a schedule as well as an Outlook invitation. It has been meeting the second Wednesday, but I feel like we may have made a change in April. Yeah, that's correct. It's the second Wednesday, and we changed the time from 6:30 to 7. And then also for April, it's going to be the 21st. So the third Wednesday, because there was a conflict with the budget meeting instead of the 14th. So we'll send out a revised schedule to everyone in Outlook invites.
Okay.
But you know that Benu's trying to get on, right?
Yeah, I resent her the link. There she is.
There she is. All right. And we had John there for a while.
Yeah, it looks like we still have John.
We still have John? Okay, but not a picture.
You could have his camera off, Paul.
Okay.
I got bumped out. Like it just, first of all, I couldn't see any of you. And then I got bumped out and I had to go back in, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I got bumped out once too.
GoToMeeting's having a, I don't know what it is. Yes.
Oh, okay. So, John, you're not going to show us your face tonight, right? Deborah. Good to see you.
Hi. I just got the invitation.
Have you been sworn in by the town clerk?
I have not. I have not received anything. In fact, I was looking for this, and I just happened to be on my computer because otherwise I was going to say they forgot me. And
no, actually, I think the town clerk reached out, and I had reached out to you via email. So you're not going to be able to be seated tonight until you're sworn in.
Not a problem.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Oh, she didn't have to leave.
Yeah, you can listen.
I thought she was just going to stay. Okay.
Okay, I think we got everyone who's going to stay, right? Have we started recording yet? Not yet.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right. We're official. Okay, I call to order the March 15th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission at 6:39 p.m. Members present are Aho, Plant, Ron, Cooley, Chandy, Accorsi, and Frattoni, and alternate member DeVivo, who is seated tonight. First thing we need to do is appoint a secretary. Would anyone like to volunteer to be a permanent secretary? Not yet. Okay. Would anyone like to volunteer to be a secretary tonight? Don't all. Hey, Sarah, thank you. Okay, we are secretaried. We have approval of minutes from March 1st. Yes.
I was not at that meeting, but I did listen to the recording.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Paul,
Yes,
I'll
Ken.
move accepted as presented.
Okay. Moved by Ron.
Second,
Second by was that Chandy?
Candy, yeah.
Okay. Second by Chandy. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Anything? Jolene, anything to report to us? Is Jolene on the call tonight? No.
Yep, I'm here. Yep,
Oh, you're
I'm here.
Okay.
So nothing other than what's in the reports. Zoning is definitely picking up for the spring.
Okay. So you got plenty of work.
Plenty of work.
Okay, good. Got to keep you busy. Okay, under old business, we have the special permit application of Capstone Collegiate Communities and J.E. Shepherd Company, which has been tabled until April 19th, when we'll have a public hearing.
Yes, and there are 3 attachments. I realized at the last meeting we had given you the low impact development checklist, but there were actually 3 attachments to that had not been provided. So those have been added to your packet for the commission's information as well as the public's.
Okay. Under new business, we have application to modify subdivision approval to allow removal of trees on lot 3 of Mansfield Hollow Estates, 497 Bassett Bridge Road. So
Yes.
why do they need to ask us if they need to remove?
So I'm
3
gonna
trees?
share my screen to show
Okay.
you. Bear with me here for a few seconds. All right. So this is lot 3 here of the subdivision. And if I zoom in, I'm going to try and zoom in a little bit so you can get a better sense of the trees. So, and there is a change to this request. So the applicant had highlighted 7 trees that are circled in red. And in talking to him today, from my standpoint, there were actually only 3 that he needed approval from the commission to remove. The first one is this 48-inch oak. And as you can see, it literally has a note that says to be saved. So that was specific on the subdivision plan. And then we have 2 28-inch oaks, and these are located outside the development area envelope. So the development area envelope is basically where the commission has said, yes, this is where we expect clearing and other activities to occur associated with the project. There are 4 trees that are within the approved development area envelope, which for us at this point, that's up to him if he wants. So it's these 2 that are along the common property line with lot 2. And then these two trees here. I did have a communication with Mr. Peterson today, and he indicated he's no longer asking for these two trees to be removed. He actually thinks they'll be fine. The reason for these trees to be removed had to do with solar access. So there's no house on this site. I don't believe there's a house on this site today. I believe they're getting started with that. And so he was planning on, he was looking to have solar access. So we're actually down, according to the most recent email communication from Mr. Peterson, to this one 48-inch oak tree. And according to, and just for the record, it is 6:44 p.m. and Carlita Cotton has arrived. So we're down to this one 48-inch oak tree that he is asking to be removed. And he has indicated that that has been impacted by gypsy moths and needs to come down. And so if I'm going to have to open another file here, but he did send some photographs today to document that for you.
So he no longer wants the solar excess?
No, I'll open that email just to be sure I got this correct. I think what he's determined is he doesn't need to take them down to achieve the solar access, if that makes sense.
Maybe he can top them or something.
All right, so this is the first photo that he's provided. And it's going to make me stop sharing my screen each time I want to switch photos. It's not liking it.
So was there some particular reason why we put save on the map? Or he had put save on the map?
I'm going to guess that it was because this was a 48-inch oak tree, that the commission saw this as being a significant tree that should be retained. And usually when we have those notes, and I can't say whether or not this is true in this subdivision, but we typically ask for tree protection details during construction to make sure that they're not, any construction they have is not going to impact it. And then one more. Oh, that is really not helpful. Apparently that is just the logo so those were the two that he sent to indicate that this had been impacted. I thought he had sent a third, but maybe not. Let me go back to that email.
So when were these photos taken?
I believe today. Just because.
So how would we know that they were impacted by gypsy moth? In corresponding with Mr. Peterson today, I had asked for documentation regarding the impact of the gypsy moths, and he had indicated that, let's see if I can find this. He had contacted an arborist and he said it would be a $200 charge to give him a note saying the oak is dead. And so he wanted to know if that was really necessary. He said the bark is falling off the tree and the branches are dead. I can send you a picture of it. So, your options are, if, we could plan a field trip so you can go out and look at the tree yourselves. You can ask him to get that arborist certification. I could, typically our tree warden only works on public property, but we could see if he'd be willing to go and look at it and give you a confirmation that in fact this is a tree that should come down.
Could someone from the Conservation Commission take a look at that?
Potentially, we can ask someone. Jen, is there anyone on Conservation that you think would be able to go out and look at that tree?
I could ask them. And is that going to be? But let's discuss that with. I'm not sure. I mean, so you would rely on the Conservation Commission to determine whether or not it's hazardous. Otherwise, it's either one individual, so it's not really the Conservation Commission, or they go out and have a field trip. I'm sort of leaning. I think our tree warden is so overwhelmed at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to volunteer him at all because it's really, I don't know that we should be using taxpayer money or staff to do this.
Why don't we see if there's a volunteer from the Conservation Commission that go out? We'll take one person's word for it.
Okay.
In my opinion, I don't think it's worth spending a lot of time on.
Well, I think we should also have a backup. If they're not willing to, then go with the arborist is what I would suggest. I mean.
Okay.
Well, the problem is then a photo that was taken in the dead of winter. So it's just showing us a tree like any other.
Well, if you can open up that first picture you showed, Linda, you could see some damage, or I could, if I can get one particular member, I think that they could, if they're willing.
Was this the one, Jen?
I can't see your screen.
Oh, huh. It would help if I shared.
Yeah, I'm thinking it is, but without seeing it, I can't.
This is because he did say he's like there. His email was hopefully you can see the dead branches and the peeling bark. So I'm guessing
folks should do that too. So
regardless, sorry, I think I interrupted.
Whether there's enough gypsy moth damage to cover it yet.
I will ask the Conservation Commission, and alternatively, then we will have the gentleman go to an arborist. But I think, are you asking the commission, Linda, if an arborist or the Conservation Commission deems it necessary, then the modification is okay?
Well, I can't. I think they're going to have to. I can't say that it's okay subject to. I think it would have to be, table this until the next meeting. So we received the application, but you're looking for more documentation.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Binu.
Yeah,
Can
go ahead.
the warden or the arborist look at the picture and see something more than what we are seeing? Make a determination based on the photographs.
I don't know. I mean, again, the email from him was that, that he was basically told $200 if you want something from me in writing. I don't know if that included a site visit or just looking at a photograph.
He could have saved himself some time by paying that $200. Okay. Now we'll look for a volunteer to go out there.
Well,
All right,
I mean, we're going to be dealing with this issue. And I think it may be setting a precedent. I almost think the $200 when you're building a house, but Linda and I haven't talked about this, it kind of is what it is. It's a 48-inch oak tree, and those are pretty significant. And you don't want to have that taken down unless it's hazardous. And I think it's probably worth him spending the $200, in my opinion.
Yeah, Ken.
Well, I'm going to agree with Jen. I think if the guy really wants our approval, I think we need something very specific. And particularly given that I think it's unlikely that this is going to be the first time with the amount of gypsy moth damage that's been done in the last 18 months, 2 years. I think it's likely to come up in some way again.
Right. And we can't depend on the Conservation Commission to always provide a volunteer. Yeah, go ahead, Darian.
Yeah.
I agree completely. If we're going to start having this issue, then I would say let's start from scratch one. He needs to prove to us with the arborist and end of story. And this way here, if it comes up with other developments, then we already know what we're going to say.
Okay. So there's a consensus on that? Okay. Good.
All right. So
Could I make just one little modification? I will say that just looking around this winter, there's significant emerald ash borer damage to ash trees that are very easy to spot visually, and that could be an exception.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, in fact, there's some near your house and near my house that are very obvious.
Yep.
all right, I am going to share a different screen for you. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
So does that make sense? I was trying to adjust to create a motion based on your discussion.
Others independent. Oh, okay. Yeah, because so you added the arborist part.
I did.
Excellent. Okay.
It took out the field trip for you.
All right, very good. Would someone like to make that motion?
I can do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Move to receive the application of Chris Peterson to modify the subdivision approval for Lot 3 of Mansfield Hollow Estates to authorize the removal of trees and to request arborist confirmation of the damage to the tree and need for removal.
Okay.
I'm just going to change that to 48-inch oak tree since that's all he's requesting at this point.
Okay.
And I would add licensed arborist.
Do you want me to read it again?
Or do you agree to those changes? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second, Cotton.
Second by Cotton. All in favor? Okay, passed unanimously. Moving on.
All right.
Interpretation of zoning regulations, accessory dwelling units. I've had my calculator out today and been calculating.
Well, and I'm actually one of the things I'm gonna do is the attachment to the memo for you is actually an Excel workbook, so it'll let me kind of literally show you numbers in real time. So, and I'm gonna ask Jolene to join for this conversation since this has come up. I actually think that she's gotten a couple of questions on this one in particular. So, the summer of 2020, we adopted new regulations for accessory dwelling. Previous to this summer, the requirement was that your accessory dwelling unit couldn't exceed 35% of the floor area of the home. Now it is, and it had to be, I would say, it had to be connected to the house. So most of the ones that I would say we got were typically basement conversions, Jolene. So creating the little floor area in the basement. In this case, or under the new regulations, you can actually do them as detached units. We've clarified you can do a detached unit, you can do an addition, which you could have done previously. Conversion of living space, conversion of a basement, all of that's acceptable. And we had a potential applicant come in, and they would actually like to convert existing living area of the house. So they have an existing house, they have a natural break point where they would like to create a separate apartment. And so this question came up as to how do you calculate that 50%, or it's now 50% not to exceed 1,000 square feet of the living area of the house. And so the applicants have said, well, if our house is, for example, what we had in the attachment to the memo for you is, for example, if you had a house that was 2,500 square feet, then we could, and if you just looked at that existing floor area of the house as it is today, 50% not to exceed 1,000 square feet would give you 1,000 square foot unit. Where Jolene and I started to struggle on this, and I will say that we went back and forth a few times with me going, I think this is okay, and is when you start to look at the actual percentage after the unit is created. So the two examples that you see here is if I have a 2,500 square foot house and I do a 1,000 square foot detached unit, that 1,000 square foot unit is 40% of the living area of the house. However, if I have a 2,500 square foot house and I convert 1,000 square feet of that to an accessory apartment, now I'm really at 67% of basically the house that's remaining when all it went of the size of that principal dwelling after the fact. So that was one, so that's one interpretation is, nope, we're just looking at the square footage of the house as it exists when you come in to ask for your accessory unit. And then the second is that really what we should be looking at, and this is the question, should we be looking at essentially what the size of the house is going to be after you create that unit? So if you are converting existing living area and now you're saying that, you know, what used to be my bonus room and a spare bedroom is now going to be an accessory apartment, how does that compare to the size of the house that's remaining? So in the first example, you can see if you put 1,000 square foot apartment in, your house is only 1,500 square feet once you have made that conversion. So using this, and I will tell you my math skills are not great. So in this particular case, I literally just changed this until, you know, found a number that was 50%. That was how, I'm sure there is a mathematical algebraic formula to make this work. My brain was not coming up with it last week. But so using this example, the maximum size that you could have would be 838 square feet that you could essentially deduct from the size of the house and have it be no more than 50% of what's remaining. So in that case, you're probably getting close to 1670, 1680 square feet is what your remaining house would be. Do those two options make sense to people in terms of what the question is here that we're asking? Because Julian and I've had a very hard time describing this in words.
Does anyone have, I have an opinion on that, but I'll keep it till the end.
Right, first, before we got to opinions, I just want to make sure what we're describing is clear.
Okay, does everyone understand the dilemma? Okay.
Approaches.
Okay, what does anyone have an opinion they'd like to share on that? Yes, go ahead, Kathy.
I don't have an opinion, but I have a question, because I'm I seem to be very thick about this. So you're saying that if a person has a house with 2,500 square feet living space, okay? Now, did that originally, that 2,500 include, say, the attic that they're going to turn into an apartment, or the basement that they're going to turn into an apartment? It's just the living space that they're using at that time.
What has triggered this question is that it's not, if it were an attic space they were converting or a basement space they were converting that wasn't living area previously, this would be very easy for us. What we're running into is if you have literal living area, you know, whether again, if it's already livable space that you're saying, I want to separate and create an accessory unit out of that living area.
Okay. So now I understand why you're deducting from the total living space.
Correct. Because if it were a basement or an attic space that wasn't living area previously, I think that's what we've typically dealt with. In this particular example, you know, and unfortunately, you know, Julian and I have talked about this. This is kind of a unique in the sense of how the house was designed, that there's a very natural break point for them to say, I want to cut this area off for a separate unit. Unfortunately, the decision that we make on how to calculate maximum size applies to everybody, regardless of whether or not there's a natural break point in the house. It's, you know,
I think the fact that there's a natural break is irrelevant for our purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
So this would be somebody that, say they have 6 rooms in their house and they want to take 2 rooms and sort of lop them off, so to speak, and rent that out as an apartment, right?
Yes.
Right.
And now, does this affect the tax codes, or?
We don't get into taxes, so I can't really.
So the owner, so are we worried about the amount of space they can turn into an apartment?
Yeah, that's the issue. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I understand now.
So by definition, we're creating an accessory unit, right? Accessory to the house. And if we do the calculation, we sort of could potentially end up with almost two equal sides, right? Maybe not a duplex, but along those lines. Is that the intent of this regulation? Is the intent to create two almost equal units?
So if you took the first approach, if I change this to a 2,000 square foot house, if you had a 2,000 square foot house and you wanted to change, let me see if I can make that a little larger for people. Nope, it's not going to let me. If you had a 2,000 square foot house and you wanted to put a 1,000 square foot accessory apartment in, then that's 50%. That's clear, if it's detached. So it's clearly 50% of the living area of the house. But if you wanted to basically say, well, I'm just going to split my house in half, each unit is 1,000 square feet. They're equal in size. One is no longer subordinate to the other, which is one of the issues we were running into, because now it's not really accessory anymore.
But it's not exactly like a duplex because the owner would have to live in one.
Yep.
So I wouldn't call it a duplex.
Well, the one thing I would note is that under our two-family criteria, that has to be owner-occupied as well. And you also need, I think it's 120,000 square feet in the RAR 90 district. So believe me, Jolene and I already looked at that as an option to see if that would work.
To see if what would work?
In this particular case, to see if they could do a two-family instead of an accessory apartment. They don't have the land area.
Right. We're only talking about accessory apartments now.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dorian.
But if they're converting, like, say, 1,000 square feet out of 2,000, doesn't that make that a multifamily unit?
No. So multifamily would be if you have 3 or more units.
Well, a duplex, like.
Well, that was, I think, to Jolene's point, with this example that's showing on the screen, if you convert 1,000 square feet of your existing house, 2,000 square foot house, and create another 1,000 square foot unit, it's not really accessory anymore. It's the same size as what's left is the main. So it really, that was our issue, is that you're essentially creating a two-family unit, but trying to do it through an accessory apartment standard.
But isn't this a way to get around the land? How much land you got to have for a duplex? Isn't this a way to just get around the back end to get a duplex created out?
That was, I think, from a staff perspective, that was one of our concerns, is that it's no longer accessory and you're essentially creating a two-family unit without going through the standards required for the two-family.
So why can't we just minimize or maximize how much of an existing dwelling can be lopped off?
That's why we wanted to, the first answer that Jolene gave this particular applicant was the bottom. It was, no, you cannot create, once you cut that apartment off, that apartment can be no more than 50% of the remaining size of the single family home. They said, well, wait a second, why can't it be 50% of, we have this 2,500 square feet. And so we started this conversation with Paul last week, as an interpretation, and we all agreed to bring it to the full commission.
Yeah, I think we've been kind of going around and around on that, because I think even if it were similar, I don't think it's an accessory because of the special rules for accessory. Yes, Dorian.
I really think it should be minimized how much of a percentage for the whole house could be divided. If you're doing even close to like even 45%, you're creating a duplex. Yeah. I don't care how many accesses you have or anything. To me, that's creating a duplex.
Yeah.
So why isn't 30% a duplex?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't even go that high.
Not even 30. That was the previous regulation.
Well,
no, I
go ahead. I'm going to look up the definitions while you're doing this.
Yeah, no, I think I see what you're saying, Dorianne, but I think that if you're talking about 50% of the size, remember that the original thing is still going to be twice as big, right? Because you're only saying it can be up to half the size. But and that's like if you're creating a brand new one, like we were talking about, if you're building a new one, that's why it was at 50%. So then it wouldn't be like it was a duplex. It wouldn't be two of the same size. It would be one that the original one would be double the size. But the problem is with the conversion. Is this right? So it's like if you're creating if you just have a house and you want to build an ADU beside it or adjacent to it or attached to it, the 50% is fine. It's the problem comes with you're talking about a conversion. Is that right? Because then 50%, right. You end up with both of them being 50%.
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
That number of 1,000 square feet is just frankly rather arbitrary. If it is 50%, that 2,500 square foot conversion could be 1,200 square feet.
Except that we have not to exceed 1,000 square feet.
1,200 square feet wouldn't exceed 50%.
No, it says you can't exceed 1,000 square feet.
Oh, you can't exceed 1,000 square
No.
feet. Yeah. I still look at this as something that my apologies for not being familiar with, but I still look at this as something that somebody's trying to, somebody's trying to avoid what the current regulations are. And I'm not okay with it.
Well, I would say, I have two things to say. I'd say we can have a separate line for if you're converting something that's existing and make those regulations different than if you're creating something brand new. That's easy enough to do. But then my other question is, why do we really care? I mean, like, no, I'm serious. I mean, if we're trying to create more housing, why do we care if we create a duplex and we make that easier to do? I mean, what's the problem with that?
We need to go back to the dimensions that we currently have in place for a duplex. I mean, is it the 120,000 square feet that is really a problem?
It sounds like it's the yard size that's the problem. That I don't understand why that's an issue. That's one thought. And then another thought is, if this was a problem or an issue, why don't we just say, if you're going to do that, convert existing living space, and if we think it's larger than it should be, you can only do that if you deed restrict it to affordable housing.
Okay.
Carlita?
Actually, I was agreeing with Luann. I was like, okay. I like that.
Okay, Dorianne?
I know we have issues with we have a special problem in this town because we have a college here, and we have special issues with college students taking advantage of things in a way that isn't safe.
Go ahead.
You got to take into consideration the parking too. How many people are going to be allowed into these spaces?
Yeah, I think we already do that in the ADU regulations.
Yep.
Yeah, so all the other requirements can be met. We're just struggling with the math on the square footage.
When it's a conversion, right? When it's a conversion of an existing building.
Was there some math previously? Was the math 30%? Because this calculation, I think, comes up to 30%. 30% of the original.
Julie and I were talking about that today, and we
33.33, 1/3.
It was 35%, but I think the one thing we were struggling to come up with is all the examples we can think of are ones that were additions or basement conversions. So we couldn't, I couldn't think of one where it was literally converting existing living space into a unit. And I don't know, Jolene, did you think of one to see?
typically it was like a basement conversion or an addition. So we looked at, okay, what was the livable floor area of the house? How large is the portion of the basement you're converting into living area to do that calculation? As I said, this is just one that I trying to figure out how we deal with.
Yeah. Whenever somebody is trying to convert existing living space, then there could be two, give them the benefit of doubt, but they could be moving towards going through the back door, trying to create a duplex. And I guess there's some tax benefits for that. I don't know if it's any.
Yeah, we can't answer. I can't answer any of that.
But then when they're trying to do existing living space, trying to convert it to ADU, then we have all the other rules. You'll still look, right, that they have a separate entrance and all of that. Okay.
I don't know if there's a separate entrance requirement anymore, but yes,
ADU,
we have
no
separate rules. It has to be deed restricted.
Isn't there something about separate and isn't there?
We say you can't create any new entrances on the front facade.
Oh, okay, on the front facade. Yeah.
In this situation, there really isn't any thought process around creating a duplex or what. It just in this particular situation, it just is more around how the house has been constructed. And so there really isn't any thought process as to, how to get around regulations, but just knowing that what we do today could perhaps affect decisions that we make later.
And Banu, you're correct. We do require that they have an entrance separate and distinct from any entrance used to access portions of the building that are not part of the accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah. And the other thing is, right now for ADU, you have a maximum of 1,000 or minimum of 1,000. What is it?
Maximum.
Right.
So it's only fair that existing living space, when they convert, it should be 1/3 and not more than 1,000, right?
It's 50% not to exceed 1,000 square feet. So, with the idea being that if you had a 3,000 square foot house, I think the commission was like, no, a 1,500 square foot accessory apartment is not an accessory apartment at that point. So that's why we had that 1,000 square feet. If you only have an 1,800 square foot house, and you wanted to do a detached unit, it's going to be at 900. You're not going to get to that 1,000 because it was 50% of the living area. Again, this is the only time this comes up is with regard to if you're actually converting existing living space in the house. How do we calculate that?
Ken?
It seems to me that if they're following the rest of the regulations, they have a separate bathroom, kitchen. I'm inclined to change my mind at this point and go along with Luann and say, you know what? Why do we care about this? We got an additional dwelling unit.
I would tend to agree with Luann too. That why do we care if they're dividing it up?
Because we're supposed to.
In most cases, it's going to be smaller, but in some cases, it could be the same.
Then I think it's only if you change the ADU rules as well, right?
Jolene, are we going to create some problems for you?
What's that?
Are we going to create some enforcement problems for you?
No, not at all. I mean, moving forward, we would simply make that math calculation a little different than I had originally thought about it when it was first presented.
I do think that the one issue that we are going to have to grapple with, it definitely makes the math simpler. But what it does raise, quite frankly, is whether or not if you can end up with a unit that is the same size, how is that accessory?
that's where I, so because the term accessory it's defined as the term applied to a building or use which is clearly incidental or subordinate to and customarily in connection with the principal building or use and located on the same lot with such principal building or use. Any accessory building attached to a principal building is deemed to be part of such building and applying the area regulations to such building. What I'm struggling with is under this interpretation, I think we need to go back and do some work because otherwise you don't have your accessory dwelling unit is no longer clearly accessory and subordinate to if it is literally can be the exact same floor area as the single family home. Right.
But couldn't it be accessory in the sense that we have all these regulations about the owner has to live in one of them?
But we require that for a 2-family residence, Paul. It's
okay.
So it's the clearly incidental and subordinate to is where I'm struggling on this.
Now it says subordinate, but it doesn't say smaller.
Right. So does the size make it subordinate? If it was 1 square foot?
Size is not mentioned. Go ahead, Luann.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how often is this likely to be an issue? Like, are we talking? We simply just don't have any idea, but we think it could be.
I think we don't have any idea. But when we do interpretations, we can't just look. As Jolene put it, like if we could just look at the case we have before us, and you go, oh, we understand. We get what your issue is. We have to look at it, though, as once we make that interpretation that this is the calculation we're going to do, this is how we apply it across the board. So the concern that, quite frankly, I would have being in this town is what happens when you then start seeing people come in and going, oh, instead of needing 120,000 square feet and having these different setbacks for a 2-family house, I can just come through and get a zoning permit to split that unit in half. And call it an accessory apartment. Whether or not that would happen because the owner occupancy, maybe not. That's probably quite frankly why we don't see a lot of 2 families today, even on large lots, because of the owner occupancy.
So maybe that's the question. Really, is how far off are we if someone walks in the door and says, "I'd like to convert my house into a 2-family house." How far off are we? And Jolene says, well, is it going to be accessory? Is it going to be that? And if the math works that it could be actually either, what would make those 2 things different? Just the lot size? Is that it? Is that the only thing that makes it different?
Lot size, setbacks, and parking, I believe, are the differences. So there are different lot size and you cannot, I will also say districts because we only allow 2-family homes in the RAR 90 district. If you have that 120,000 square feet, there's increased setbacks and then parking. We do not allow it in the R20 or R90 district, but we do allow accessory apartments in the R20 and R90 district.
Okay, first Katie and then Ken.
Okay, my question was, this wouldn't impact like a in-law apartment. That would be an accessory dwelling.
Yeah.
If they're just doing a couple of rooms.
But again, it's the same. If you're converting living area, that's the question that we're dealing with. If you're converting a basement, we're clear. If you're converting an attic, we're clear. If you're doing an addition, if you're doing it detached, it's only if you're taking, a portion of your existing living area and saying, I want to convert this into an accessory apartment that we're struggling with. Okay, how do we apply that size calculation?
And also, does the number of people living in that accessory apartment hold true for like what we have for other apartments?
So
the accessory is 2 adults, right?
Hang on. So for occupancy on accessory units, it is 2 adults, and then you can also have children under the age of 18 that are the legal responsibility of an adult
occupant provided maximum shall not exceed 1 occupant per 100 square feet of combined living and dining room space. So, other than that, we actually typically, if you were just asking in our multifamily, we do not get into the number of occupants per unit, with the sole exception of to say each dwelling unit cannot be occupied by more than 1 family. So that's where we get into the no more than 3 unrelated individuals, or if you have more than 3 unrelated individuals, they need to demonstrate that they meet the functional family or other reasonable accommodation provisions in the definition.
Ken.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have something, Ken, that you want to say?
No, I think I've said what I need to say.
Okay. Luann?
Well, I was going to say that it seems like the simplest way to do this would just say if you're conversion of existing floor space within a principal dwelling unit, just make that less than 50%. Wouldn't that, so if you're building it accessory.
Well, that would be, we'd have to do a regulation change.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, well, we can do that. That's what we do.
We can do that.
Yes, you can do that. I guess the question is, until you do that, how do we interpret it?
Okay. Well, it still sounds to me like there's an interpretable language in there about that is fine. So that if you're in the situation that hopefully will be rare until we make this change, you could just bring that before the commission and ask us to interpret the word, what was it?
Incidental and subordinate too.
Yeah, incidental and subordinate.
I don't think we want to be caught there too many times. We need to rewrite that regulation pretty soon.
Okay, so let me.
I think Benu had a question.
Yeah, I feel that we should look at, we have to be fair. If somebody is creating something new and somebody is creating something from the old, both should be given the same, option. And I think the math is coming out to be 33.33%. If it's existing, the math of what the subordinate unit should be is 33.33. If you're looking for the math. And when you're creating new, it cannot exceed 1,000. So I think the math should be 33.33, not exceeding 1,000. Just to be fair for people who are trying to create a new, additional dwelling unit, whatever it's called, and the ones who are trying to create from something that's existing.
Binu has the math correct. Very good. But yes, go ahead, Luann.
I just wanted to clarify. Are you saying that we should change the regulation as is from 50% to 33? Because it seems to me like that's correcting a problem we may not really have very much of.
I think she's talking only about converting an existing house, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Us converting an existing house.
Don't change anything without studying what the impacts are. Don't change anything. Lean and Linda just want some direction as to how to interpret that for an existing condition. And the existing condition, I think the interpretation is 33.33% of the existing square footage, not exceeding 1,000 square foot.
Right, but leave the
everything is nothing. Don't do anything. We are just saying that is our interpretation of the rule for existing units being converted.
That's another way of saying that you do have to subtract it from the existing house.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for saying that, because I was like, I don't think we can pull out a 30. I don't think we can pull out a number on that interpretation.
No,
I'm going to show you 2 options and let you decide. I made a little edit on the fly here. All right, so 2 options for you in terms of interpretations here. the top one says, you know, the maximum size is based on the floor area of the principal dwelling that remains after the accessory unit is created. So that, I think, is what I'm hearing Banu was just describing, because he is much better with math than I am.
Yeah.
The second one would base it on the existing floor area of the house as it is today, and you can do the 50%, 1,000 up to 1,000 square feet with an additional caveat, provided the accessory unit is smaller than the size of the principal dwelling after it's created. So that doesn't say how much smaller, it just says smaller, so that it's, you know, if someone came in and said, well, I want to do 1,000 and 1,000, we go, nope, sorry, that's equal. You can't do that. But if it's smaller, then we can say it's incidental and subordinate too, until we can go back.
We can do that. We can do that without rewriting the regulation.
I think we can do that. I would do that as an interpretation today, and then go back, and quite frankly, I would follow this up with some, you know, some regulation amendments to clarify what you really want.
Okay. Personally, I like that second one. I didn't know we could do that.
We may be stretching it a little, but.
Dorian.
I think the second one sounds better.
Yeah. Okay. Would someone like to put that motion forward?
Oh, I can do it.
Okay, thank you.
Plan. Move to adopt the following interpretation of Article 10, Section L.1.c, accessory dwelling units, maximum size. The maximum size of accessory dwelling units created through the conversion of existing floor area shall be based on the floor area of the principal dwelling existing prior to establishment of the accessory unit, provided the accessory unit is smaller than the size of the principal dwelling after it is created.
Moved by Plant.
I'll second it for Tony.
Second by Tony. Any discussion?
Jolene, does that make sense to you?
Well, I'm just thinking how we base it is on what we call 50% of livable floor area. So I'm wondering if we should replace the word smaller with maybe less livable floor area, or something to kind of quantify how I'm going to be calculating the square footage.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So it's less livable floor area.
How's that?
Okay. Is that okay with Plant and Tony? Okay. Any other discussion? Ken?
Yes. For Ken, Ron, for clarity here, we are going to come back and amend regulations.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's the key. Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
As well as we're doing now.
All right. Okay. It passed unanimously, I think.
Did Cotton vote aye? I didn't see a hand.
Yeah, I was just raising a question, but I'll go ahead with the rest.
Okay.
Are you sure?
So, no.
Okay. We actually have something to add to your agenda this evening. Well, we have one more item, and so we'll do the next item, and then we'll have you add, and we have a new business. You have a receipt of an application. So,
okay. Okay, I just want to say I'm proud of you guys. That was a great discussion. That's what I imagine the PZC is like when I dream about what it might be like. Good job.
Oh, don't use the word dream. You don't want to be dreaming about that.
Okay, so our next new business is PZC initiated amendment to zoning regulations. Temporary outdoor dining. Yes.
Yes, so this is a suggestion from staff. So I think we briefed you over the summer that the governor, is part of one of his executive orders earlier in the spring, I want to say probably around April, May timeframe, had issued an executive order that basically directed communities to allow outdoor dining and I apologize, I just got distracted by a message. Jolene, can you respond to Mr. Peterson? So basically allow outdoor dining under certain provisions, including allowing it to occupy up to 50% of the parking area. And all of this was, as you think about it, we were either prohibiting or significantly restricting occupancy inside eating and drinking establishments. So, where we are today is, I think actually effective today, the governor has told eating and drinking establishments that they can have 100% occupancy inside. However, and this is the big kind of catch, they have to maintain social distancing. So telling an establishment they can have 100% occupancy as long as everyone is social distanced does not, for many establishments, actually get them to 100% occupancy. So today, notwithstanding, in terms of weather, it is warming up. We do expect to be seeing warmer weather. And one of the challenges we have is that all of the governor's executive orders are set to expire. I believe it's on either April 19th or April 20th. So one of our concerns is that if this executive order is not renewed, then all of the permissions that we have given to local businesses through special applications that were dealt with administratively by staff to have outdoor dining to help them increase their capacity during this time would essentially be over with, because those all expired in the fall. So in talking and looking at what other communities are doing, I want to give a shout out to West Hartford, because I basically cribbed this from them. But this is a proposed amendment, and we are proposing it right now as a temporary amendment. I would recommend that regulatory review look at more permanent changes for outdoor dining across the board. The reason we are proposing this as temporary is because it makes it easier and simpler for you to move this forward. The amendment itself would essentially extend the provisions that were included in the governor's executive orders until December 31st, 2021 for Mansfield, which would authorize the staff review team to essentially reissue those outdoor dining permits for this season. And by doing it as temporary, I don't have to get into a bunch of technical standard review with you, and we don't get into those debates right now. But I think more importantly is, under the current executive orders, if you are proposing amendments that are related to the pandemic, we do not have to do the referral to the COGS, which is a minimum 25-day referral period. So you can actually, if you initiate this tonight, hold a public hearing on April 5th. And we could have this, hopefully, assuming that the public is in support and the commission's in support, we could potentially have this adopted and effective before the executive orders expire, so that it's seamless for our businesses to continue to have outdoor dining.
Okay. Would someone like to put that motion forward? Okay, Luann?
Yep, I can do it. This is Cooley, and I move to initiate an amendment to the zoning regulations PZC file 907-50 to authorize temporary outdoor dining associated with eating and drinking establishments through December 31st, 2021, to refer said amendment dated March 11, 2021 to the town attorney, and to schedule a public hearing for April 5th, 2021. This amendment is proposed to address impacts of COVID-19 social distancing requirements on the indoor capacity of eating and drinking establishments, and to continue the provision of outdoor service options consistent with CDC recommendations for reducing virus transmission.
Moved by Cooley.
Plant seconds it.
Second by Plant. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, unanimous. We're going to eat outside. Yeah.
Okay, bear with me. I'm having trouble with my mouse.
Okay.
And I need to open up a slide for you. There we go. All right, so the next thing we need to have you do is to open up or to add a new item of business.
Oh, okay. That's the, okay. So Someone like to make that motion to add a new item of business? Binu?
Yeah. I move to add the following as item D under new business special permit application to authorize an agrivoltaic greenhouse project at 483 Browns Road, John and Donna Creed, applicants / Enviro Enterprises LLC owner.
Okay. Second? Corsi seconds. All in favor? Okay.
It's 438 Browns Road.
It is? Okay.
Just check that, Linda.
Oh, sorry. I thought. Hang on. Let me open the application.
I think I've made that same mistake. That's why.
So this is the greenhouse we saw today, right?
438 it is. Sorry about that. 438. Apparently I had a little number dyslexia there.
Okay, so the motion was to bring this up as a agenda item.
Yes. And I'm
so,
sorry, was that seconded and voted on?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so the next I'm going to just fix the receipt motion and put that on the screen for everyone.
Oh, this is a receipt motion.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. The special, we put another item on in order to receive a permit. Okay, now I got it. Okay. I'm a little slow this evening.
I can put it.
Okay.
I can put it forward. This
Okay,
is
thank
Chair.
you.
Move to receive the March 14, 2021 special permit application of John and Donna Creed to authorize an agrivoltaic greenhouse project at 438, did I get the number right? Browns Road, that first said application to staff and the Agricultural Committee for review and comment, and to schedule a public hearing for April 5th, 2021.
Moved by Chandy.
Second. Cotton.
Second by Cotton. All in favor? Press unanimously, I believe. Yes. Okay, we finished our new business.
You finished your new business. So I think what we have left is just, so the Desegregate Connecticut initiative. Thank you again to everyone who participated in our special meeting last week. We didn't have a chance to do those meeting minutes and get those in your packet, so they'll be in your next meeting. We did submit a letter. I believe I copied everyone on that, and we'll also get that into an upcoming packet. So that was, I did double check this morning under public testimony, and at least as of this morning, it was the first one listed because of the chair's last name. So since they go alphabetically, all you are at the top of the pile. And there was a lot of testimony entered on that particular bill, as well as several related bills.
And a few feathers were ruffled this morning, but we got that straightened out.
All right.
Hey, Paul, you can't do that.
It's all good.
It's all good.
Yes, you just did.
It's all good.
All right.
So under reports, I don't know, Paul, I have a couple of things just to update folks on. I don't know if there are any other ones.
Go ahead.
So I know a few of you participated in the Connecticut Bar Association land use law training. So that was on Saturday. I will tell you, it was, I don't know about you, it was very long. I will have to go back and rewatch parts of that. My brain kind of stopped functioning after about 4.5 hours. But here's what I will say is I did think it was a great course for folks, and there is an opportunity if you are interested to actually sign up for the recording, which presumably you don't have to watch in one stretch from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
But I think there is, and if Luann, I saw you nodding your head, if there's anything, that you thought was helpful. But I do think it's something that because of COVID, this is one of those kind of, here are some positives. Normally this is held every 2 years, presumably, somewhere in a hotel, or I have no idea where they normally do this. But there were over 400 people that were logged on to this training when they started at 9 a.m. Saturday. And they recorded it, and they are going to make the recording available to everyone who attended, but also to other folks who want to register and sign up after the fact to view it. So, let us know if that's something you would be interested in. I do think there are some sections, for example, there's an entire section on ZBAs that you don't need to necessarily watch if you're not on the ZBA, but that's definitely something we can work with you on.
Yeah, send us an email explaining how to
wait, as soon as when we get the information, we will. I think one of the challenges we have is we don't actually have, we haven't gotten that feedback. The other piece is that I think they were also going to try and figure out how to take all of the questions and answers, which were in a written form on the through Zoom, and convert that into a document so everyone can see the Q&As that came out of it. For the affordable housing plan update, this project is underway, and there is a survey coming out. Jen, do you know do you have an update on when we're going live with that survey?
Yes, we are going live at the end of the week.
Okay.
And mailing will be midweek, and we'll be doing a social media blast. So encourage your friends and families to fill out the survey.
So, and we do have a story map, which I also just call a website at this point. I'm sure it'll be more mapping oriented once we get more into it. But right now, it kind of looks like it's a website with basic information on what we're doing. And so there were also we're working on that outreach now.
Linda, was that session last Saturday, was that the same as the session I went to 2 years ago in Middlesex County?
This is, well, I don't know if you went to this. Are you talking about the one that you, Vera, and I went to?
Yeah.
No, that's the Connecticut Center for Land Use Education and Research. They do advanced training. This is actually put on by the Connecticut Bar Association, and I will tell you, I have at least a 2-inch thick bound document with presentations as well as various case law examples. And while a lot of it is refresher for me, I will tell you there were definitely nuggets, and there were times where I was like, okay, where's I have a document on the surface that I was using that has the little tidbits of this is a good thing to know. So one of the things I will share with you, for example, is you are not required to actually formally take action to receive applications. So
what?
We can say no, we don't want to.
Exercise that we just went through.
Now you tell us.
You are not required to do. So as they put it, they said some communities, and that would be us, do a formal receipt, but per statute, the clock starts based on the date of your next regular meeting. So that according to statute, even if you had not taken that action today, since we got the application in it was submitted yesterday online, automatically the clock starts today. So you did not technically need to.
So that'll save us some time if we don't have to do that anymore, right?
So that's one of those things where I think procedurally we can have a conversation and go, okay, are you okay? And we'll probably look for a formal endorsement to say that we're not going to include receipt motions. You're just going to rely on staff to schedule those public hearings and not do the formal receipt. So just one of the nuggets that I, picked up in listening to this. And again, I think it was a good primer. Speakers are all different, some were, very entertaining. Others were more clearly reading something to you. But again, I think there's a lot of information, and honestly, having that book now, I feel like I've got some case law examples to go back to. And it was, I think it's a good primer. And if the legislation requiring training for you guys passes, I think this is probably going to be one of the go-to resources every 2 years for folks.
Okay, good.
And that is my report. You do have a couple of communications that were included in your packet. And that's all I have.
Okay, very good. We are adjourned at 7:48. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
This conference is no longer being recorded.